Hey, it's time to get on code. Time for the Get On Code show. I'm Seiko Varner. Peace, beloved. Peace, beloved. And I have with me Minister Zumbi. What's up, brother? Minister 8-Ball.
Peace and greetings.
And we also have with us brother Ryan Culver. He's the director and I guess the force behind the film, The Education of a Negro. How you doing, Ryan?
Very good. Very good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you all for having me.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, we're going to chat about empowerment. Our show is focused firmly on empowerment. And when I look at content like what you have with The Education of a Negro, and I look at what, Minister 8-Ball has, Minister Zumbi, with the GOAT book, it's all focused on empowerment. So tell us a little bit about this. And are you in this picture? I know you asked that earlier, but you said this was your lead actor, right?
That is, yes, that brother's the lead actor to the right, Kendricks Lamar's Brown, and then to his left, the young lady in the black and yellow is the lead actress. So, and they are both a young tour de force. Actually, the brother was in Harriet, and the sister was on Insecure. She had a 2 or 3 episode arc on Insecure, the Issa Rae show on HBO. So it was a pleasure to be able to work with both of those two up-and-coming actors.
Okay. And look, your film, The Education of a Negro, is on Amazon Prime along with some other places. Also found it on YouTube. You can buy it on YouTube, but I saw it was on Amazon Prime, and I was really excited about that. Minister Zumbi, I know you were saying that you were interested in the business of putting a film like this out, right?
Yeah, especially with what technology has now offered. You don't have to shop a screenplay to Hollywood. And with the emergence of crowdfunding, where now you can actually go to your fan base to raise capital for your movie. So it's a game changer that I think you'll see grow over the next decade.
What was it like for you, Brother Ryan, to put out this film, man? What's the business behind it?
Yeah. The brother had some real good insight into how things have changed. It's been definitely a sea change. I would not have been able to put this movie out. I would not have been able to make this movie 10 years ago. But the advances in camera technology, going from film to digital, and then just the number of be completely honest, the number of skilled Black actors that are out there that a low budget feature film like this has access to makes it totally, like the brother said, makes it totally possible for me to start at the beginning, which is the key, right? I have to start at the beginning. I have to do things myself, and then I have to get good enough to be able to warrant, investors coming on in subsequent projects. So the business end was really family and friends buying into my idea. I don't know if I've said this yet, but the film is really loosely based around the Philando Castile murder up in Minneapolis. I don't know if you two brothers remember that back in 2016. Mm-hmm. His girlfriend live streamed his death, which was shocking at the time to actually see it. And being from Minnesota, it was one of those where I'm usually I'm not the one that believes that the cops are going to be held accountable. But for this one, I thought it was so egregious, there was really no choice. Of course, a year later, the officer is acquitted, surprising to me. And then I thought, you know what, I got something to say about this, how we're treated, our responses to how we're treated. And I'm not satisfied with another Facebook post and 100 likes. I need a message that I want to give to, frankly, to give to my people about this subject. And then I wrote the screenplay. Like I said, I got buy-in from my family. We kept it on a tight budget, and we were able to deliver a picture that, it's a low-budget film for sure, but people like it. And so that was kind of how we went around the business. And I didn't make this necessarily to make money. It was more of a love letter to Black people about what's been happening to us.
Well, yeah, that Philando Castile situation was still, I still shiver when I think about that situation, because you're right. His beloved his beloved lady. I just stutter when I think about that situation. And I think that we're really set up in America for another similar result. I believe that Derek Chauvin is going to walk free. I think he's going to be celebrated, and I think he's going to be employed very shortly thereafter. Even though, the George Floyd's family just recently, as you were sharing, Minister Zumbi, received $27 million for his murder, I do believe that police officers going to walk. Or police officers, because it was a squad of them, 3 of them that were involved in that particular situation. And I've been dismayed by it as well. So you were so bothered by this Philando Castile situation, you decided to make a movie. That's different.
Yeah.
That hits different, man. That hits so different. Most people want to march. Most people want a Facebook post. But you made a movie.
Yeah, it felt like, and I guess maybe just some of that is my nature, but it just felt like, and I don't begrudge anyone who decides to march or chant, that's not what I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying for me, I felt like a movie would be much more powerful message on what's been happening, how it's been happening, and what kind of needs to be done about it. Yeah, and that graphic. I live in Dallas now, and our brother Botham Jean. Another tragedy, right? To just see what the brothers eating ice cream and getting ready for bed, and a cop busts in and decides that he's robbing her, and it's not her house, and I think she got 7 years, which seems weird, right? I mean, drug dealers get more than that the first time around, so. Yeah, it was to me, Seiko. It was. I have something to say, and what gives me encouragement is that people who see the film love it, and I love when they come back to me and they're like, "I got them. Like, I understand what you were trying to say. Like, I got the message in this film," and like that to me is all the currency I need. Is when the family looks at it, watches the film, and says, "Thank you. We got it. This makes sense. This is the film we've been waiting for. We don't see this kind of stuff coming out of Hollywood, but this is a message we needed." So
I wanted to take a moment and watch the trailer. So we're going to watch the trailer, and I would love to get your responses to it afterwards.
Sure.
See, we sacrificed our blood for America.
Ruth sacrificed it for him.
Tell me a story about Kirk.
Huh?
Your brother. Tell me a story about him.
Yo, what up, baby? What's good?
Yeah. How did it come to this? There's a video on the internet with 40 million views. That's how it came to this.
White supremacist infiltration of law enforcement. It's the key to understanding the breadth and depth of this nationwide.
Set it, twist! Go!
My brother took his last breath, scared and confused in the hospital room. Brady doesn't get to walk away from that.
Wow. That's wow. All right, so I know you can't give away the goods. We want people to buy the movie. How comfortable were the white actors in portraying white supremacists?
Seiko, that's a great question. So we did real background for you before I answer the question. We did a 6-city tour, and this is back before COVID. And after every show, I would, go to the front and I'd take questions for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I kid you not, that was a question that came up all the time. I can tell you I was lucky enough to have professional actors who understood that this was a role and were able to hit it from the beginning without any, hesitancy or And I was just like, I felt blessed in that regard because going in, not having any experience, I was a rookie director. I thought it was going to be conversations, and we use the N word a lot, and they use the N word a lot. And the brother right there in the guy right there in the picture is, he's the villain. Like I said, I'm not going to give it away, but he does some really, really bad things, and he couldn't be a nicer guy. So I felt lucky that I had good actors out in LA who understood that this is a role, and that good actors can inhabit any role and figure out what they need to do to get the job done. So I was lucky in that regard. But everyone asked that question because they're like, man, I have to say this, and this seems really uncomfortable. And there are a couple of uncomfortable. I don't know if you guys have seen the film yet, but the opening is very uncomfortable. And we were just lucky enough to get actors who didn't have any issues with that. And on the trailer at the end, this is probably the comment I get the most a lot from brothers, is that Kenny, who's the main character, says, my brother died alone in the hospital, scared and alone in the hospital room. And you think I'm just going to let Brady get away with that. Like, that's not good enough for him, right? Like, I don't need a check. I don't need a guilty plea, right? You harm my brother, somebody's going to pay. And it's that simple for him, right? Like, it's that simple for him. And that's part of the, like I said, I'm not going to give it away, but that's part of kind of what drives the plot forward is when he kind of gets to that point where he's saying, you know what, enough is enough, right? If I have to die, so be it, but I can't let my brother, go out like this in vain. So.
Do you think that we're getting to that point?
So I think we have much more faith in the justice system in 2021 than the justice system deserves. I think, because this is really, America is really all we have. Most Americans, the majority of Black Americans, legacy Black Americans, have been cut off for 400, 500 years. So there is no other home to go back to. Do I think we're getting to that point? No, honestly, I don't. But you see with the Capitol riot that there are a lot of Americans that are already at that point, right? When they want something, I mean, who would have ever dreamt that the riot would be under siege, or the Capitol would be under, U.S. Capitol would be under siege from armed white supremacists? Did either of you ever think that that was possible? I didn't.
I have to admit, I thought it was possible, but I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming is vividly, and I wasn't surprised when it happened, but I didn't see it. I thought it would have happened much sooner. I really thought it would happen much sooner. And so I didn't see it coming when it came. I really thought things would have happened on Election Day.
Okay, so yeah, you mean just in relation to Donald Trump, and he was egging them on and trying to get that started. Yeah, I definitely could have seen that, but to me, it was just like, oh, okay, this is, they're saying this is normal, and they want something and they're not getting it, and so they're going to use guns and nooses and bombs and to get an election result. So,
This is crazy. Now, it looks to me like you have multiple trailers. So I just saw a trailer. As a matter of fact, I was just playing it in the background while you were talking. I'm going to play this time with the volume, and let's talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
What I do and don't mean. You want to talk right now? Now, it's the first tears I've seen from you all week.
You're hurting me, Kenny.
Yeah? Well, if you're that hurt, maybe you should bounce.
What does that mean? Can you look at me? Look at me. What does that mean?
Keep the ring.
I know he was your brother, but I love Kurt too. I'm going to bed. I love you.
All right, give us the goods on this one, man. What just happened?
Yeah,
what did we just
yeah.
see? What did we just see? What did we just see? So I'm looking and I'm like, okay, a fiance just said beat it, and it must have been his brother who was killed. I know you can't give away the whole film, but what did we just see in this little slice?
Yeah. I wish I would have known you were going to do this. I could have given you a much better clip. That was the one that Apple, you couldn't have cursing, and so we had to come up with something that was good enough for Apple. That's a long story short. So what happens in this scene? That's Kenny on the right. That's JJ on the left. That's his fiance. His brother was killed by a cop 13 days ago, and they've just come back from the funeral. And she, as any good girlfriend wife would do, is trying to console him and thinks the way to console him is to tell him the pastor's giving a sermon on forgiveness and we must learn to forgive. And he's not having any of it. He's not having any of it. And she is when she kind of is taken aback when he kind of starts cursing and telling her that, I don't want to hear that right now. And I'm not in the mood for that. This has happened too many times for us to keep just saying, forgive. And she continues on. And that what you saw there was kind of the end of the argument when he just tells her, you know what, you need to go ahead and leave if that's the attitude you're gonna bring. She says no, as any good wife would. She understands that he is he's in the middle of a catharsis, if you will, and luckily she sticks around. And then again, I don't want to give anything away, but she does turn up in the end.
Okay.
And, so she's a badass, if you will. She learns to be a badass really quick in the end. And this is the scene you just watched, or the half of the scene you just watched, is actually people's second favorite scene. And their favorite scene is a scene I call the bathroom scene. And again, I won't give that away, but there's a twist that usually shocks everybody in the bathroom.
All right.
This is usually people's second favorite. The funeral scene is people's second favorite scene.
All right. What's happening in this scene?
The funeral scene, right?
It looks like to be a couple in a car.
So these are right on the right. That's a gentleman named Paul McDade. He plays a reporter, and on the left is a young lady named Mikhail Simons. They both play reporters. One is from New York. The other one is a local reporter, and they are investigating white supremacy in the police department. And keep in mind, I wrote this script back in 2017. So this was well before all of the talk about white supremacy came up. But that's what this scene is. They're talking about white supremacy, and they've just actually uncovered some documents of a couple cops that are known to be white supremacists, and they're discussing it.
All right. And tell us about this one.
Yeah, that's a poster. That's probably our most famous poster. So I don't know if you gentlemen have seen the movie Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Okay. So I took a page out of their book. If you remember, it's Jodie Foster. She's got a butterfly covering her mouth. And so, I kind of took that concept, but I put no more talk because, I think that kind of speaks for itself, right? That, things have happened maybe one too many times, and, all the talking is going to have to going to have to come to a stop at some point. So.
Right. Hey, this is the Get On Code show. We're chatting with Ryan Culver. He's the producer of the film that every Black person should see in 2021, and it's called The Education of a Negro. Also along with me is Minister Zumbi. I call him Minister 8-Ball. I like that a little better. He's the author of the great book, GOAT, The Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology. So he's going to ask some business-based questions because he's the theologist when it comes to business. Minister Zumbi, any questions popping in your head, man?
Well, there's two ways I could approach it. I can either the theme of the movie or the business, but I think I'll go with the theme first. From all of the trailers I've seen, there's a thing I call confronting Mr. Covey. And for anyone who's read Frederick Douglass's first book, he talks about his ultimate confrontation with Mr. Covey. Now, I don't know if there's a Mr. Covey moment in this movie, but do you think African people are at the point where they're going to have to confront Mr. Covey in a physical manner?
And I apologize. I'm not familiar with Mr. Covey. Can you give me just a little bit more context on him versus Frederick Douglass?
Okay, Frederick Douglass was 14. And he had just gotten sold to Mr. Covey. His infamous nickname was the Inbreaker.
Got it. Yep.
And the first time Douglass tried to organize other enslaved Africans to rise up against Mr. Covey beats him to within an inch of his life. It takes him maybe about 3 to 6 months to recover. Then one day, Mr. Covey comes to a barn, and Frederick Douglass has already made up his mind, whether I live or whether I die, I will not continue to live one more day as a slave. And he fought Mr. Covey to a standstill after 2 hours. And Mr. Covey never touched Frederick Douglass again. And so that was a turning point in Frederick Douglass's life, where he says, no matter what happens, I'm going to rumble for my freedom.
So thank you now, because it kind of came back for me. So I think every man comes to that moment, right? I think every man comes to that moment. As a people, no, I don't think that will ever happen. But I think every man kind of comes to that moment, and I think if we don't do anything about the legacy of police being able to harm. Here is my thing. If you're a police officer, you are deputized to protect and serve. You should not be able to be a white supremacist and be a police officer. White supremacy is antithetical to blackness. That's its whole existence. And so if you're allowed to be part of a group that wants to violently oppose black people for nothing more than their skin, and you're also a cop, I personally don't reconcile those two. And so once you become a threat to me, you're a threat. And the Halloween, you're wearing a Halloween costume at that point, right? I'm not a criminal. I'm probably like you two gentlemen. I know who I am. I'm not a criminal. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I'm not going to be terrorized by somebody wearing a Halloween costume, who wants to be a white supremacist and wants to harm me. And so, like every other American, I have a God-given right to defend myself. And if you're a white supremacist and you're threatening me or my family, I have every right, just like Frederick Douglass did, to defend himself. And that's kind of where I stand on that. And to be perfectly candid, that should not be a controversial position. I mean, do either of you think that that's controversial at all, given our history in this country?
It's only controversial if, there's an old saying, ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
Sure.
That's true.
And so what I think is beginning to happen, and I'm thinking back to our warrior ancestor, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who had no issue confronting the enemy on a physical realm. I mean, we've seen it during his days in the Nation of Islam, and we've seen it during his days in the New Black Panther Party. He understood that eventually you're going to have to rumble with this beast. You can't pray your way out of it. You can't throw seances. You can't burn sage. At what point? Because I think, Kennedy said it best. He says, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And I think we're closer to that tipping point than we realize. I'm not saying you want it to happen, but if we understand history, it will ultimately manifest itself.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the Panthers, because I don't know if any of you all saw the Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield film that just came out, Judas and the Black Messiah. And it's almost like it's taken Hollywood this far to get to the point where we see that, you know what, these guys weren't bad. They weren't, revolutionary in any real, for what Fred Hampton was asking for wasn't something that was just out of left field, from Mars. He was asking for equality and mainly fairness, not to be beaten and terrorized by the Chicago police. And so it's just like, is it that crazy of an ask for Black people to ask America to not have police physically terrorize us? I don't see what's controversial about that point. And whatever would come after, if America decides, we're okay with cops still being able to terrorize African American. I saw the George Floyd video 16 hours after it happened. And I just watched him urinate on himself. I watched him finally call out to his mother. And then I watched him give up the ghost. And I'm just thinking, when is he going to, what is he doing? He's got cuffs on, he's on the ground, he's on his belly. You got 15, 20 people there begging you to let him up. His nose is bleeding. And the cop is just oblivious to it. And I'm thinking, is America okay? Is America okay with this? And then, of course, we saw the fallout, which surprised me. I would not have expected a race riot of that magnitude to have ensued across they were rioting in Japan. It was just like, wow, this has consumed the whole world. So that was surprising to me. But again, I just come back to America and thinking, is what Black people are asking for, is it that controversial? It doesn't feel controversial to me, and I don't know why people make a controversy if people are like, hey man, I don't like that you can be a white supremacist and put on a cop uniform and then kill me and then have the state protect you as a cop. I just don't see what's difficult for people to comprehend about Black people's concern about that, ongoing concern. So,
hey, we're chatting with Ryan Culver, and he's the producer of the great groundbreaking film, The Education of a Negro. And we were just talking about the George Floyd situation. And what's interesting about that is I just said in a tweet a few days ago that this ends when we won't accept it anymore. This ends when we won't accept it anymore. Because it's my position that, Derek Chauvin is going to be allowed free. He's probably going to be employed. He's going to be celebrated. I think it's about to happen again. And I think it's important that we start putting together personally and collectively how we're going to respond to the upcoming injustice that's going to happen. Our injustice system is traditionally benign neglect, and we're going to let anybody get away with harming us. That's been the tradition of our injustice system. So I think we need to really start looking at what we're going to do collectively and personally when this happens. And I think your film kind of leads us to that point that one of the actors said, I'm going to take action to make sure this doesn't happen anymore, or it's less likely to happen anymore. And I agree. This ends when we won't accept it anymore.
Well, and keep in mind, I have to remind people that this, like I said, I wrote the script in 17. So, I mean, both of John hadn't happened. Derek Chauvin hadn't happened. I mean, a lot of these hadn't happened yet. And definitely we hadn't seen kind of the white supremacist revolution or resurgence in the way that we've seen it across the country. So it feels like it was a little prescient there. I'm crossing my fingers. Like I said, I'm from Minnesota. I feel like enough people saw it, and regardless of whether there was fentanyl in the system or he had a heart condition, I fall to the but for, right? So he had a heart condition. Half Americans have a heart condition, right? If you put your knee on my neck, that exactly, you know what I mean? It's like, what does his heart condition have to do with him being prone and having a knee on his neck? Like that is what caused his death. So I'm concerned about all the technicalities that they try to introduce, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just the optimism in me. I feel like after this summer and then after January 6th, I feel like a lot of people are understanding there's a lot of racial injustice and hopefully are looking in the mirror. Our sister Breonna Taylor is another one. I mean, you do a no-knock warrant. The brother thinks that somebody's breaking in. It's 2:00 in the morning. I mean, what do you want him to do, right?
Right.
So what did you expect that he would do? And I don't know if you guys ever listened to Kenneth Walker's interview with the DA or with the detective. He says the brother had such a good heart. He says in the interview with the detective, I shot off a round at the bottom of the door, hoping to just scare them away, whoever it was. So he wasn't even trying to hurt somebody. He was just trying to get them clear of his house. And then, of course, his girlfriend is gunned down, and we understand that they had nothing to do with any of it from the beginning, and that the cops lied, and they went to the postmaster, and they made him lie, and they lied to the judge, and nothing has happened to those cops that did that. So I would hope that the riots this summer and then the January 6th thing have people, judges, jurors, DAs, recognizing that they're bringing their bias and that they have to cut that out. But we'll see. We'll see.
You're way more optimistic than I am. I see this interview here, brother. Tell me about this interview.
Yeah, this is actually what they call a screen test. So those are that's the main protagonist on the left. That's Kenny. And then that's the cop on the right, one of the cops on the right. And so this is actually a screen test. And we do this before we actually go on set, just to get a sense of the chemistry with the actors. And so we did this we shot the film or started shooting the film in May, June, and July. And I think we did this screen test back in February of 18, February, March of 18. So.
Okay. Let's check out this screen test.
And I'll smile. You think the Italians or the Jews will let that happen to their boys? Hell, even a wetback knows a business transaction when he sees
one of the gentlemen I was working with on casting told me that if you give an actor direction during an audition and they don't do it, it's either because they can't or they don't want to. Either way, you don't want them on the set. And I remember giving Mike some specific direction here that I wanted a much more hearty, sinister laugh, like you were trying to agitate or aggravate Kenny, played by Kendrick Brown, opposite him to violence. And he said, okay. And I said, action. And then they got to the point, and he nailed it. And I knew then I had my detective.
Right now, detective. Let's just say I'm no longer here under a law enforcement capacity. This is,
All right, that was intriguing, Ryan. That was really intriguing.
Let me tell you guys something.
Wow.
That guy, first, the brother on the left, Kendricks, is a great actor. That guy on the right can act, and I think when you see the movie, you guys will, even though he's a bad guy, I think when you see the movie, you'll enjoy all the cops' performances because they're really, really, really good. And like I said at the outset, I was blessed enough to work with some really talented actors that I think you guys will definitely be seeing on their way up. So,
Ashe. Minister Zumbi, I know you're gonna come with that heat, man. What's your next question, bro?
I guess the only thing I have to say about it is, and I keep going back to history. I sometimes wonder if we made a mistake, because I think sometimes in our behavior or misbehavior, we teach others how to treat us, and we don't know when to draw that line in the sand. When the brother was talking about the scene where, with the pastor talking about forgiving, the only one who would feed you that is an enemy who created your theology in the first place. Okay. And I think we also have to start putting religion under the microscope and asking ourselves, are we really practicing what we're being taught, or are we carrying out a slave theology that has been imposed on us during our capture?
So yeah, for the as far as the religion part, Minister Zumbi, I feel like people watching this interview will be like, I don't have a reason to watch the movie. You just told me everything that happens in the movie. But there is a scene in there where what you just talked about, where do we get our religion from, comes up. And that's part of the discussion and part of, I think, what pushes the plot forward in Act 2. So yes, I want people to watch this. I want people to watch this interview and then go watch the movie. So I'm kind of smiling and maybe dancing around your question without trying to give away too much. But I will say that comes up, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet. I'd love for you to watch it and maybe just give me some of your feedback, because I think a lot of the things you're probably going to bring up are covered in this movie. And I think there are a lot of questions that people, legacy Black Americans are asking ourselves, right? And I tried to hit on those and then present them in an entertaining but an educational way. That's why I called the film "The Education of a Negro," to make people think. So
interesting. I pulled up some of the pictures from the film. So tell us about who we see in these photos.
Yeah. So on the left, that's like I said, Kendrick Lamar's Brown. He's the lead actor. This was our premiere in LA, so it was a while after. You see, he's got the whole Bob Marley thing going on. That gentleman is I'm telling you guys, he's a fantastic actor. He's a rapper also, just a really A1 creative. And then on his left is Mikhail Simons. She plays a New York Times-esque reporter who kind of comes down to Minneapolis to investigate both the trial and then also investigate white supremacy within the police. And so she's kind of breaking the story. And actually, I can't give away too much, but yeah, she plays a central character. That guy on the right is our DP, director of photography, named Nick. I don't know why his last name is escaping me right now. I should know it, but Nick was a great DP, a young DP, first time DP, but excellent eye. People love the cinematography in the film. So if you guys have a chance to see it, I mean, the shots that he was able to put together on a low budget that we had were phenomenal. And then that's his father on the right. These two sisters. So on the right is our lead actress, Alyssa Murray. She's fantastic. Again, for all you who are listening, please go and watch and support the film. We need that support. You will not, when I say this, I mean this. You will not be disappointed with her performance in the film. On her right is her agent. That's her agent that was with her at the that's her agent there on her right at the premiere. Okay. On the left is a gentleman who had a small part, Dario Lee. He's a good up and coming actor, and then that's his homeboy with him who came to the premiere. Dario is a great up and coming actor, a good basketball player as well. That's our poster, man. This guy shows up 6 times in the film. I'm not going to tell you any more than that, but you want to see the film? This guy shows up 6 times. Every time he shows up, it's murder. Every time he shows up, it's murder. Rob Francis, that's one of the officers, one of the white supremacist officers. I can't give away who she is, but I would say watch the film. You'll love her performance. She's in it for maybe 5 minutes, but she keeps your attention, and she absolutely steals the opening scene.
She's keeping attention, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, that's Nomsa Mlambo. We talked about her before.
Okay, I just had to take a second. Okay.
That's the detective. That's the guy you see. We talked about. He was in the screen test. We talked about. That's Mike Marinaccio, really good actor. So this young lady, Maggie Cheerless, actually plays a black conservative reporter. And when you see the film, you're going to be very angry with how she talks about black on black crime and everything that is presented. There's an excuse for why the cops do what they do to black people, and that none of it has to do with white supremacy or anything like that. It's all the I'm giving away too much. Watch the film.
All right, so you were able
like
to you were able to cast Candace Owens without getting Candace Owens.
Listen, everybody says that. I can't say that because she's a public figure. I will say that this is a black conservative reporter. He plays the father. His name is KJ Rashid. He's a really good actor, older gentleman out of California. He did a really good job, I thought. Kirk, Isaiah Locust, he was one of my favorite actors to work with. I think he's about 23, 24. He plays the younger brother. He's hilarious. This is Chike. He's one of the best friends of Kenny, another good actor. This is a CNN-like reporter who's got some interesting opinions on the murder and African-American people. I'm not going to give away who this guy is. Baker Wiles is his name, but you got to watch the film to figure it out. Yeah, figure it out. And then that's
Ooh, that's Alyssa Murray.
Yeah, that's the one we talked about before. That's her. She plays JJ, the wife.
What else has she done?
You probably saw her in the. I don't know if you watched Issa Rae's Insecure, but that's probably where you've seen her. She's also done some national commercials. She did a couple national commercials that were out this year. So you may have seen her. I can't remember what products they were for, but they were two that she put up on her IG, and I saw them. And you may have seen her in those commercials. This is Anna Carnover. She plays the wife of one of the cops. Really good performance. That's our lead guy. We talked about him before.
Right.
This is a family photo, one of the family photos we use for the props in the film.
Ooh.
Yeah, you gotta watch the film to see what these guys do. I'm not gonna give it away.
The kind of boogaloo boyish.
Whenever you see these guys, is death and murder coming to your doorstep.
Hold on, wait. I got to go back for that.
Yeah,
interesting.
These two play the brothers in flashbacks. So when they're younger, they play the brother in a few flashbacks we've got in the film. Really good young actors too. They were really good to have on set.
All right, so Tania Thomas is watching, and she says, "Why can't you say? Why can't you say?" But you know what? Maybe she needs to know how to watch the movie. So tell Tania how she can watch the movie.
Oh, so she wants me to say more about it because I'm advertising. Well, so here's the problem, right? If I give away everything, then I just, you want people to watch the film. So she can watch it on Amazon or on Apple TV. She can watch it on YouTube, and then we're also on Google Play. So, and it's $1.99. It's it's basically peanuts, but I guarantee you'll feel like it's worth it. And if she's got a specific question for me, I'll be more than happy to answer. But I know some people like to figure things out, right? They don't want to have everything given to them. They want to watch the film and kind of watch the twist unfold. So,
right,
I'm sorry, Tania.
And hopefully we said your name right, Queen. So you can also rent it on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah, just go to YouTube if you've got an account. I think it's $8 on YouTube. I think you can get it the standard def for $99. You probably want to get the HD version for $1.99. But yeah, we tried to go everywhere where we thought our audience would be, and we tried to make it a price point that was not too heavy on on the pocketbook.
Well, how does that business model work? I know that Minister Zumbi is always interested in the economics of things. How does, how do you profit by placing your film on YouTube?
So it's you got to get, well, it's not free, right? So we're going to get paid every time somebody buys it on YouTube or on Amazon or wherever, and we take a split. It's a different split with every platform. So I think Apple is, we get like 65 or 70%. Don't quote me on this. I'd have to go to my model. Amazon, I know, is 50-50. I think YouTube is like 60-30 or 60-40. So it's basically like movie tickets, right? I mean, when you go to the movies, you buy a ticket, a portion of that goes to the theater, and then a portion of that goes back to the studio who made the movie. It's kind of the same business model that YouTube and these other platforms have put into production, except it allows a guy like me to make a film and have it seen by people all over the world without having to go through, a traditional studio. So, and then to come on platforms like this, and, I thank you, brothers, for having me on to be able to talk to your audience and get sisters like Tania to get interested in watching and hopefully enjoying the film.
Now, you also did a screening. I used to do screenings with some of the content from Jason Black and Tariq Nasheed. I think we've screened all of Tariq's Hidden Colors films in Norfolk, Virginia at a theater that we used to rent out. And we did 3 of Jason Black's films. We did Gentrified, we did 7 a.m., and we did one of his other films. What was the process like for you to screen a film?
We had to do a concept that they call four-walling. So you have to find the theater. Most of the time it's going to be an independent theater. And then you contact them and say, hey, we got a film. We'd like to show it on this day or that day. How much will it cost? Some of the outlets wanted to do kind of a split. We thought, just give us your base price. We'll drive traffic, and then, we'll keep the net over what it cost us. So we did that, and it wasn't too difficult. Again, you look it up and say, hey, we want to come here. Here's a theater in Virginia or Texas or Minnesota or New York or wherever you want to screen. And usually they're more than happy to work with you because they've got a opening on Wednesday or Thursday or a Saturday afternoon or whenever, and it's money in their pocket, and then you get a chance to have your fans see your screen on the big screen, see your film, on the big screen. And I will say this: there's definitely a difference between watching your film on the big screen and watching it on, watching it in your home or on your computer. So.
It is.
And experiencing it, when I screened it, I would always sit in the back and just wait for the moments of where people laughed or they kind of gasped. And sometimes you're right. You're like, I know that they're going to do that there. And then sometimes you're totally off. You're like, that wasn't a laugh line, but everybody laughs and it's consistent. And you're like, oh, people found that part to be funny. So it's always interesting to me to just sit in the back for a couple hours and just listen to people's reaction. I mean, we're here in Dallas. When we first screened it, I can't say much about that final scene, but there's something that happens. And when it happened, all the sisters in the theater said, oh, no, he didn't. And again, it was one of those moments where I felt excited that I could get the audience to emote like that. So as a filmmaker, you kind of like those moments. And that was one of those moments. So.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Minister Zumbi, once again, he's the brother who put out the book, The Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology. You can buy that. I bought it at my local bookstore. You can buy it on Amazon and, other places like that. I know you have another question, Brother Zumbi, but before we do that, I want to bring everyone's attention to my services. I provide money for real estate investors throughout the United States. We can do 90% of your purchase price and 100% of the repair costs. So it's 90% of the purchase, 100% of the rehabs. This is one of the properties that we recently worked on. We purchased it for $96 and needed $60,000 in rehab. After repair value, it says $227K. It's actually closer to $229. $233K. It's going to go on the market soon. So if you're a real estate investor, holler. give me a call, 757-932-0177, 757-932-0177. And back to Minister Zumbi. I call him Minister 8-Ball. If you wonder why I call him Minister 8-Ball, you have to watch his interview. But bro, 8-Ball, what's good?
Well, there is I guess it's a twofold question for Brother Ryan. How do you think this movie will push the dialogue amongst African people in terms of what should be our next step? And how will this movie also push the dialogue to encourage young African people to engage more in independent filmmaking and not have to go through Hollywood to get funding?
I'm going to take that last question first, because it's one I like. I hope that it encourages people to realize that, yes, this film, making it as an independent feature film, was hard work, but it wasn't brain surgery, right? And by that, I mean it's stuff that you can figure out, right? It's stuff that if you want to make films, that you can figure out how to do. I tell people all the time, if you can count to 10, you can understand the basics of finance, right? Mm-hmm. And if you can read, you can understand, with the help of Google, basic contracts. Of course, yeah, you need lawyers and stuff like that, but there's really no excuse for you not doing things on your own. And then for those who have what I call a very important desire in our community, is you need to have the desire to start at the bottom, right? So many people want to go to HBO or Showtime or Netflix and have them do all the hard work and then hand over $5 million to make your dream project. And as an entrepreneur, I just don't understand that mindset, because that's not how Netflix survives, right? They're going to find the cream, and then they're going to invest in the cream. And if you want to be the cream, it's like basketball. I tell people all the time, Kobe Bryant didn't get to the finals on one day. He started when he was in 5th grade, way before any of us ever knew his name. You know what I mean? Like, before we even knew Kobe or LeBron or Michael Jordan, they were getting it going in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, high school. And so I just encourage people, don't fall in love with the romanticism of Hollywood, trying to get to the top or trying to start at the top. You can start at the bottom. I'm a rookie filmmaker. I had never done this before, but through YouTube and through other independent filmmakers who are willing to talk to me and mentor me, it can be done. And it's important that we drive our own stories, and that kind of dovetails into your first question, where it's a story that's untainted by Hollywood. And I don't mean that in the pejorative. I just mean that people are always going to tell their own stories, right? So, Minister Zumbi, when I read your book on Afronomics, I'm guessing, you can correct me, but it's going to be a book on economics, finance, entrepreneurship from a Black man's point of view. And that's important, because in school, most of the books you read are not necessarily from a Black man's point of view. And so it's important to get those points of view. And this film is just that. It's a point of view of, again, I'm not a criminal. I have no interest in criminal activity. I'm proud to be an American. I'm just being perfectly candid. I don't have, I wish I did have roots in Western Africa. I know that's where my, ancestors came from, but I don't have that connection. I'm not a criminal, but this film is how I see Black people in our relations with the police. And there's a problem there, right? And if you want to ignore that, if you're an American citizen and you want to ignore that, then fine. But my question after the George Floyd riots were, how many times does America have to see race riots before we decide to address the problem? 1919, 1927, 1945, almost every year in the 1960s, right? And I say that with a smile, but there was a major riots almost every year in the 1960s. There was another riot, I think, in Miami in 1983. We all know about the Rodney King riots in 1992. And then you get the George Floyd riots, and it's like, okay, so are we just comfortable with race riots every 20 or 25 years, or do we want to address, the fundamental problem? And so I think when we get more filmmakers who are not scared to say, this is my voice, I'm an American, but this is how I feel about this, and I'm not scared to put this out there, then I think that, Brother Zumbi, then triggers the necessary conversations. And not just among us, right? I mean, it's got to be a conversation of, everybody, behavior in this formula, this equation has to change. And to me, I know I'm kind of bumbling on here, but I guess if I was a shot caller in America, I would ask myself, what benefit do I get from keeping a whole class of people oppressed on purpose? Like, what's the benefit there? These are not, these are American citizens. I mean, these aren't people that, came from Mars. These are American citizens. And I'm not sure what the benefit is of purposely trying to keep these people oppressed and accepting the fact that we're just going to have major race riots. Because I said, and I don't know if you guys saw Dave Chappelle, and he did his, was it 816 or 846? I don't know if you guys saw that. But at the end of that, he said essentially like, hey, man, this riot, the next riot might not be like this one, right? The next riot might not be like this one. And do we really want to get to a place where it's instead of people just rioting and bombing or, raiding stores, it's something worse? I would say no. And I would say I think most Americans would say no. So I hope I answered your questions, Minister Zumbi, in there. For the filmmaker part, I hope I'm encouraging young filmmakers to realize that you're going to have to do it yourself, and you're going to have the courage and discipline to start at the bottom, because nobody's going to hand you anything. And then as far as the conversation, I think the film, I know for a fact, for 95% of the people that see the film, it has started a real conversation, because again, there's no Hollywood taint in this film. There's no, let's make it a happy ending. Let's bring everybody together, because that's not the reality that we live in as a people right now. Right. So.
One thing I want to add, as you were talking, the former police chief of Seattle was being interviewed on CBC, and basically he was saying what mistakes were made by Ferguson police in the shooting death of Michael Brown. The one thing he said is that there is a fear of culture from the academy all the way into the police force, where officers are taught that there are certain neighborhoods and certain demographics that already trigger fear. So let's say you're triggered by this fear, and then I had another police chief I was having a conversation with, and he just tells me that he personally knew that there were officers on the force who were self-medicating, and he didn't go any further than that, but I had an idea of what he was talking about. So the one thing that I say that could be brought out in these dialogues is a demand for random mandatory drug testing. And I think that will go a long way into minimizing these incidents.
Well, and that shows my ignorance, because I would have thought that police officers were already drug tested. But I mean, you give somebody life and death power, right? And you would think that would be a normal thing. If we're going to give you special powers to take people's lives based on your judgment, then what better determinant of that judgment is whether or not you choose to break the law and using illegal substances. I'm shocked, Minister Zumbi, to find that drug testing is not standard for all. I mean, we drug test athletes, right? We drug test athletes for what? Why would we drug test athletes and not drug test police officers? So yeah, I'm shocked that that's not something that already happens.
And Minister Zumbi, I found that some officers were trained to be biased. I had an interview, and I'm going to play a little bit of it, but she revealed.
Then I went to my second police academy after being.
Let me skip ahead a little bit.
Okay.
And anywhere that we are de-escalating or where that we're encouraged to talk through a problem or deal with a small larceny or that kind of thing, that's when our white role players are utilized. So I got reprimanded severely and actually got written up. Had a chance to defend myself. And I was told by the commandant of my school that he understood where I was coming from, but it wasn't how I made friends. And I needed to just play along.
Okay. And you know what's crazy is I've heard this countless times before with other law enforcement agents. And this is no shock to me, but it still shocks me. And what she was describing was that when they had role playing to teach the police officers how to handle difficult situations, the situations where there was a melanated person, a black person, was the situations where they had to use force. And the situations where they just talked to somebody were the situations where they had role players who were Caucasian.
Whoa, really?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, Brother Sekou, I call that a disease that's specific to white people. I call it the fear of a black planet syndrome, because the greater the threat you are to racism and white imperialism, the more vicious the oppression has to be.
Yep. I wanted to play one other video from one of your casting calls as we bring our conversation to a close. We can do a part 2 at a later point. But yeah, so let's watch this and make sure that we get it. Also another experience of what the screen tests were like. All right.
Action.
Mr. Tate, Mary Johansson, New York Tribune. How are you?
Good. Call me Ken, please. Where do you want me?
Right there's fine. Did you want something to drink?
Thank you. No.
No, so one of the things I learned in casting is that people who self-tape well sometimes don't audition well, and some people who audition screen test very well maybe have self-tapes that are average. Mikhail had a good self-tape, but she was 5th place coming into auditions. She was 1st place coming out of auditions. I really loved her in auditions, and then obviously she screen tested very well. Mikhail Simons is there on the left, in case I didn't mention that. She was just a joy to work with. She had such a fantastic attitude, and I thought a really talented actress. I'm looking forward to seeing her more.
A good thing with the trial.
That's very interesting, man. That's very interesting. It seems like, Brother Ryan, you really had a very extraordinary set and filming. I was looking at the pictures earlier with some of the scenes from when you were, doing the shots, and I was just kind of blown away, man. It looks like you really had a high quality production. How did you afford it, man?
So I don't know that it was a matter of. I would say this. I'm trying to say this without making the cast feel like they're cheap. It's not as expensive as you would think, right? And I'll say that it's not as expensive as you would think because you have actors who looked at the script and said, yes, this is the kind of acting I want to do, right? There's no vampires, there's no wolves, there's no, this is a real movie. And so I can sink my teeth into this role, whether it's the mother, whether it's the police officer, whether it's the wife. And so I think I was able to really benefit from not only cast, but crew as well, who read the script and said, darn, we think this is a really good script. We want to be involved. Sign me up. Here's what I'll take. I know it's not a lot, but I want to be involved in this project because it's something I believe in. And again, keeping in mind, this is before all of kind of the unrest that we've seen over the last few years. So I really take special care to make sure and thank my cast and crew for believing in me, right? Because it takes that commitment to say, I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 or 5 months of my life learning 60, 70 pages of a script to be able to come in and perform. And give you what you need to make these movies. So yeah, what you're looking at there is a house. We had an Airbnb that we rented, and we had a production designer come in and make it look like a house of a young 30-year-old black couple. And I mean, you wouldn't have, when you see the movie, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I think we got all of the key positions you need for a studio film. And we got a lot of people who were just, if you're asking how we did it, a lot of people were just kind of starting out or on their second or third film and kind of looking for credits. And again, they were able to commit to me and to the vision and give me their best. This is the bedroom scene. I tell people all the time, I don't know if any of you brothers have ever been on a movie set. And this was an indie film movie set. So we had, I think the most people we had on set one day at one time was like 35. And usually every day it was maybe 15 to 20. But there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes of a film that you just don't know. Like when you guys see this shot in the movie, it's just him and her in bed. But literally all of these people are in the room turning on lights or holding a microphone or making a sound effect just to make that like 30 or 45 second scene come to life. And if you watch the movie, you wouldn't have any clue that, all of us were kind of crowded in this room bringing this scene to life, but it was. So.
All right. So Ryan, any last things you want to share? And Minister Zumbi, any last questions that you might have with Ryan?
I think my last question for Ryan is, when's the workshop?
Workshop. What do you mean?
Well, basically to teach us how to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, I would love to. One of the things, Minister, I'm glad you bring that up, Mr. Doom, because what I found on the way in developing this film is that everybody wants to charge for stuff, and I just feel like, not just us, but just everybody in Hollywood, consultant this, consultant that, come to my workshop. It's $99. I'm like, you made one movie. Why would I give you $99 to? So yeah, I've never even thought about that because Minister Zumbi, to be honest, and this is not false humility, I feel like who would want to learn anything from me? I made one film and it's on Amazon. It's not on Netflix and it's not, there's no Denzel or anybody. So I had that attitude, like, hey, who would want to learn, come to one of my workshops? But no, I would be happy to share my knowledge with anybody and just let them know that you can do it and you need to do it and you don't need to wait. But there was one thing I said to myself, and I didn't get this from my parents, is that if I could do it, I was going to do it right within the best of my means, right? I was not going to be sloppy. If I was going to make this film for the family, then I wanted something the family could be proud about, whether that was in Seattle, Florida, New York, the UK, that they could say, you know what, this brother took his time with this film. You showed some of the screen tests. He cast it well. He wrote it well. And even though there's no stars and it's an indie film, it's a film that we can enjoy. So I guess that's my last word. I really hope the family likes it and gets a chance to enjoy it. And I appreciate you brothers having me on the show.
Wow. And we're looking on your Facebook page right now. And here's that scary fella.
He's going to light up here in a second. Yeah, there he is.
All right. And, well, Hartsco, Hartsco. Tell us about that before we close, man.
It's a family. I took the middle initials of members of my family, rearranged them, and made it into that name. And they didn't even know that. It took them 20 minutes to figure it out. So, but that's that was the brand. I took the middle initial of each of my family members and then just arranged it into a name that sounded cool. So that's the story there.
Well, I love what I'm seeing, man. And people can go to the Facebook page, The Education of a Negro. And of course, when I hear that, I think of the Miseducation.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm not just talking Lauryn Hill.
No, I'm talking about the real one, our brother Carter G.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I also think of The Education of Sonny Carson.
I saw that film. You know what? I saw they have that film on YouTube, and I watched it because it came up when I was doing like history of the name of this film, and it came up, and I was like, I never heard of this, Education of Sonny Carson, but I saw the film. Yeah, I saw that film. Yeah.
All right, now I see you're on Apple TV, Amazon, YouTube. Was that Vudu, Google Play?
Google Play.
And people can buy the DVD?
If they get the DVD, it's only $5.99, shipping included, and you get a bunch of extras. So you get director's commentary, you get all the screen tests. Essentially, you get part of the workshop. I'm taking you through, how our actor interviews, how we did everything. So it's if you've got it and you want to support, it's just another way for people to be able to support. So.
All right, we'll check everything out here on his Facebook page. I like this particular image. And we've been talking with Ryan Culver, the producer of The Education of a Negro. We've also had back on the show, a friend of the show. I guess he's becoming like a fixture in many ways. Minister Zumbi, the author of The Gospel of Afro-Nomics Theology. So we want to say, everyone, go check out the movie. I'm going to check it out with the wifey. We'll sit back and check it out probably on Google Play. We'll probably watch it there, maybe on YouTube. But we encourage each one of you to get on Code and to watch this. So Get on Code show was strictly about empowerment. And I believe that films like this, content like this, can help us empower ourselves to deal with situations that, like the situation coming up with Derek Chauvin, and the miscarriage of justice that the Congressional Black Caucus did. That George Floyd Act would not have prevented George Floyd's death. And we're celebrating these congressional people. The Congress failed us. America has failed us. The Congressional Black Caucus has failed us. That's my position. So we need to get on code economically. In terms of content, we need to get on code. And Brother Ryan, it looks like you're on code with this one. We need to do something. And as I said before, this will change when we change the way we respond to it. So it's time for a different response. And hopefully this movie will be thought-provoking, so we'll say no more talk.
I like it. I appreciate you all having me on the show. This is very informative. And I'm hoping your viewers like the film.
Good stuff. All right. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Peace.
The show was brought to you by Positive Vibes, our consulting service. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.